parents changed their mind on attending my F18 high school graduation after my church announced their own in 2 weeks, and they want me to attend that instead. So I'm writing this because my college plans were uprooted as of Sunday, June 16th. I'll be graduating this week, and my ceremony is later this week. However, my church announced that they'll be doing their own graduation ceremony on July 7th, where they'll have church graduates walk down the aisle of the sanctuary during service to be recognized and receive prayer. And the pastor announced it on the 16th. According to my parents, he said it was important to make sure the next generation rooted their future in God, and the church will be having a barbecue after service in honor of the graduates. However, I haven't attended church since I was 16 due to an incident I'll explain later, but my parents seem hell-bent on making sure I attend not just the church graduation but church from now on too, and they added strings to prior agreements that were never attached. Before the church graduation was announced, my parents agreed to split tuition with me to attend a community college upon me finding a job this summer. I planned to transfer afterward to finish my bachelor's. However, after the announcement, my parents said they weren't going to attend my graduation and that I wasn't allowed to either, a complete 180 out of nowhere. We even invited relatives to attend from out of state, but my parents already told them to attend the church graduation instead, and I feel like they pulled the rug from under me. When I said I still plan to attend my high school graduation with friends, they threatened to rescind their offer to pay for college if I went and didn't come to the church one, and I just feel blindsided by this. When I tried to explain how they changed their mind out of nowhere, they said that the pastor talked about how people lost their way in college by disregarding faith and morals, so they weren't going to pay for me to go and change because of worldly influences. But when I said that I would pay for tuition myself, without them if I find a job, while still attending the HS graduation, they said they'd charge me rent starting in July, which is unfair because I'm yet to find a job. I've been applying like crazy the past few weeks, and I have a few interviews lined up too. They're just trying to make me return to church after I stopped attending 2 years ago, and I've been really frustrated with their flip-flop. They said they're doing this because they made mistakes in college before later finding God, and they didn't want me to make the same ones too. The last thing I'll add is this. I was bullied in that church in the past, and I reached my breaking point 2 years ago. The youth had a campout on the grass behind the church where I was hazed by this really annoying girl, and no one did anything, including the assistant/chaperone in our tent. There were stupid pranks that were made in good fun, but the most hurtful thing was when that one girl made jokes/comments about my body/weight when we were changing that really hurt, and our tent chaperone didn't do anything when I told her afterward, because she wasn't in there as we changed. This is just one of many things with this girl during youth group when leaders weren't looking, but that was the most hurtful. However, to my surprise, my parents took my side and didn't make me attend youth group after that, and they let me stop attending for the most part to my surprise. I miss how they were reasonable in the past and hope that they can be reasonable again with me here. Most of my relatives are also churchgoers and have agreed to attend the church graduation instead, and I just need advice because it all happened so fast, and it especially hurts that they don't want to attend my high school graduation. My friends are in high school, and I don't consider anyone in our church's youth group to be my friend, so of course I want to graduate with my friends, but I can't pay rent. Edit. Just a few things I want to clear up. 1. I'm scared of them taking stuff out of my room and putting them outside if they see me attend the HS graduation because they know when it is, and I'm afraid to come back and they won't let me in if they're that far into their nonsense. For that reason, I'm weighing the risk of attending even if it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. We don't have a lease, and I'm going to see if a friend's parents can home me in case and even help me find legal advice. But I'm willing to skip my HS graduation if it helps me long-term and I'm unable to find temporary stay with a friend. I'll also talk to my non-church-going relatives because I don't want anyone relaying anything to my parents. And that includes my older sister who's moved out but still attends church and is close with my parents' opinions on religion and politics. 2. The pastor didn't schedule the church graduation on a conflicting day with my, or anyone's, HS graduation. The church graduation will take place on a Sunday during service where graduates will walk down the aisle to receive prayer followed by a church-wide barbecue in the back of the church afterwards in honor of the graduates. My parents made the BS of forcing me to only attend the church graduation instead of my high school one. The pastor never said that. Update. I was unable to update sooner due to my phone being taken away, but I'll explain why. A few people suggested reaching out to some non-religious relatives to see if they could help or even provide shelter if they tried to throw me out, and I decided on my aunt after having no success with friends. I told some friends first about everything my parents threatened, but long story short, they talked to their parents who were unable to take me in, and they said it was last minute or mostly busy with their own things/graduations too. I then tried my aunt and told her everything too, and she said I could stay with her soon but not in time for my HS graduation because it was really short notice. She said I could at some point this summer, and she wasn't initially coming to my graduation because she lives on the other side of the country, but she said she would try to talk some sense into my parents, and that led to my phone being removed. My parents didn't like that I told her because it was none of her business according to them. I don't know what was said on the call, and they threatened to turn off my phone plan unless I gave them my phone, and I caved when they were yelling at me and gave it to them, along with my laptop they wanted too, because they threatened to kick me out sooner than July for talking about them to my aunt because she could tell others. They also said that they'd put my stuff outside while I was at the HS graduation if I attended, so they would kick me out that night instead of their original threat to start charge me rent in July. So for those reasons, plus another I'll say in a moment, I decided not to attend my HS graduation because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. I was already having anxiety about what they'd do to my stuff while there, and I didn't want to be homeless when I returned. I also had a loss of motivation to do other things leading up to it, hobbies like sports, hanging out, or even watching TV. I knew I wouldn't enjoy it because I was already dreading it before it happened, and my anxiety there would be worse than the lead up. I also didn't want to wear a smile the whole time with none of my family in attendance either, and I didn't think I could hide it emotionally either. I also decided to attend the church graduation to get it over with, and I rationalized it like I did with other things growing up. I was forced to go to youth group and kids choir growing up, and I was forced to be baptized too. This was no different, just 5 minutes of the pastor calling all graduates on stage to pray for them, and they didn't even give us a gift like on Mother's Day LOL. All my life I've had to suck up things I hated at church, and the church graduation was less tedious than the pre-baptism classes. They were mandatory, because it was only 5 minutes on stage compared to 3 weeks of baptism classes. Some relatives came, gave me money from cards, and we ate lunch at a restaurant afterward, something we did when my dad was elected to a church position years ago, and invited friends to see him get installed before lunch afterward. I'm pretty used to the song and dance, and this was easier/shorter than other church BS. My parents also returned my phone after the church graduation, and a lot of my anxiety lessened when I decided to skill my graduation. Don't get me wrong, I'll always hate them for it, and I'm no longer accepting their help for college either. I'm gonna find a job, hopefully too, if part-time, and try to move out over the summer if I can, and I won't talk to them again afterward. Because of their stress, I decided to skip a once-in-a-lifetime event to prioritize my mental health because I wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway with the stress. And the fact that they're happy with me for obeying, as they gave my phone back, should allow me to find jobs without additional stress. They also withdrew their July rent threat, and everything's been peaceful since the church graduation, although I'll never forgive them for what they tried to do. I also expect them to threaten me with something else in the future too, so I hope to move out as soon as possible, even if it means staying with my aunt until finding a job. I'm glad she said I could stay with her, and hopefully the time until I do remains peaceful.